The first transaction, no one took seriously. It was worth almost nothing. It solved no immediate problem, and hardly anyone noticed it happen at all. Yet that single exchange quietly changed the meaning of value forever. To understand why this moment matters today, we have to step back into a world where digital scarcity sounded like a contradiction. Files could be copied endlessly. Music, images, documents, all duplicated without loss. The idea that something digital could be limited felt absurd. For decades, that limitation protected money. Scarcity required control. Someone had to decide what was real. Someone had to prevent duplication. And online, that role always belonged to institutions. This transaction challenged that assumption, not with authority, not with enforcement, but with agreement. Two participants, a shared set of rules, and a network that confirmed the truth without knowing either party. At the time, it felt like a test, a proof, a technical demonstration between curious minds. No headlines, no celebration, just a confirmation message and a timestamp. But beneath that simplicity was a breakthrough. Digital value had moved without permission. No intermediary approved it. No central ledger recorded it. Yet everyone running the system could verify it independently. That verification was the real innovation. Not the coins, not the software, the agreement. For the first time, digital ownership could not be copied. It could only be transferred. Once sent, it was gone. Irreversible. Final. Most observers missed the significance. They saw a novelty, a toy, something clever but impractical. After all, what was the point of money no one accepted? What value could exist without belief? Without trust? Without history? Those questions felt reasonable and completely wrong, because value has never been about usefulness alone. It has always been about confidence. And confidence doesn't appear instantly. It accumulates. This transaction was the first deposit, not of money, but of belief. And from that moment on, the system was no longer theoretical. After that first exchange, nothing dramatic followed. No rush, no crowd, no sudden realization, just silence. Days passed, then weeks. The network kept running, mostly unnoticed. Blocks continued to form. Rewards continued to be issued, all for something most of the world considered worthless. Early participants weren't chasing profit. There was none to chase. They were testing an idea, exploring a possibility, seeing whether digital scarcity could survive contact with reality. Each transaction reinforced the same truth. No double spending, no reversal, no authority stepping in. The system behaved exactly as promised. That consistency mattered, because trust doesn't emerge from excitement. It emerges from repetition. Slowly, more people joined, not because they believed, but because they were curious. They wanted to see if it could fail, and failure never came. Instead, something subtle shifted. Forums filled with discussions. Improvements were suggested. Bugs were fixed. The network strengthened quietly, collaboratively. Then came a strange moment. Someone asked a simple question. Could this be exchanged for something real? The idea felt almost absurd. Why would anyone trade goods for digital tokens? Tokens created by strangers, backed by nothing. But value has never required logic. It requires agreement. The first informal trades happened privately, small, experimental, a service exchange, a product shipped, nothing recorded in history books. Still, each trade mattered, because it expanded the circle of belief. From code to people, that expansion carried risk. Once value entered the picture, incentives changed, motives shifted, attention followed. The system was no longer protected by obscurity. It was exposed, and exposure is where most ideas collapse. The first transaction proved something could move. The next phase would prove whether belief could move with it. That test would reshape everything that followed. It was alive. As belief began to spread, tension followed close behind. Not everyone saw progress. Some saw danger, others saw opportunity, and a few saw control slipping away. The moment value entered the system, incentives changed permanently. Mining was no longer just experimentation. Holding coins was no longer meaningless. Every action now carried consequence. Speculators arrived early. They always do. They watched price discussions form from nothing. They sensed asymmetry, risk without rules, reward without precedent. At the same time, critics grew louder. They warned it had no backing, no intrinsic worth, no protection. They said belief alone was too fragile to support money. History suggested otherwise. Gold had no yield. Paper had no value without trust. Yet both ruled entire civilizations. Still, doubt mattered because belief is not linear. It surges, then it breaks, then it reforms stronger than before. The first market formed almost accidentally. An exchange rate proposed, negotiated, adjusted. No central authority declared it official. It existed because people agreed it existed. That agreement turned volatility into a feature. Prices moved wildly, up, down, sometimes violently. Each swing attracted attention. Each headline pulled new eyes toward the experiment. With attention came pressure. Scaling issues surfaced. Transactions slowed. Fees appeared. Trade-offs emerged. For the first time, hard choices had to be made. Speed versus security. Convenience versus decentralization. Growth versus principles. Every decision fractured opinion. Communities split. Debates intensified. Forts were proposed. Some implemented. Others rejected. The system didn't collapse. It adapted. Painfully. Publicly. Without permission. That adaptability proved something important. This wasn't just software. It was a living system shaped by belief, conflict, and consequence. And once that realization set in, the first transaction looked very different in hindsight. It was no longer small, or meaningless, or forgettable. It was a spark that forced the world to decide whether digital belief could become permanent value. The answer was still forming, and the most difficult test was yet to come. The realization arrived slowly, then all at once. That first transaction wasn't important because of what moved. It was important because of what changed. For the first time, value traveled without permission. No signature, no approval, no institution validating the exchange. Only a shared agreement enforced by code. That moment rewired assumptions humans had carried for centuries. That money required authority. That value needed endorsement. That trust had to be centralized to survive. None of that was true anymore. The system didn't ask whether the transaction was wise. It didn't question motives. It didn't protect anyone from mistakes. It simply enforced the rules consistently. That neutrality was its strength and its danger, because once money becomes purely mechanical, every choice becomes personal. Every mistake becomes final. Every success becomes undeniable. This was the price of freedom. No reversals. No safety nets. No one to blame. What followed wasn't inevitability. It was consequence. Belief multiplied. So did risk. So did responsibility. The first transaction created a reference point, a before and after. Before, digital value was theoretical. After, it was irreversible. Every exchange since then traces back to that moment. Every surge, every collapse, every argument about legitimacy, all of it rests on a single proof, that people will agree on value, even when no one is in charge. Today, trillions move through systems inspired by that idea, not because everyone understands it, but because enough people believe it works. And belief, once anchored by proof, becomes difficult to undo. That first transaction didn't change the world overnight. It changed the direction of trust. And the world has been adjusting ever since. So what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again?